a BBC reporter is arguing that we need to stop treating female athletes like mini men and hear more about how a woman's menstrual cycle and physiology impact athletic performance. So do we think female athletes should disclose more when it comes to, for example, their periods?
Yes, yes. So I'm gonna say this. I was an athlete for 20-something years, most of my life. All my coaches were men. So I'm gonna answer this in two prongs. As a young emerging athlete who's a girl, that can be very difficult to broach that conversation with a male coach. I think you need to make sure that you have a woman or somebody that you can have those conversations with. As an elite, as a professional, absolutely. And I think the male coaches need to get on board with this. But I will say this, that's something that you can control in your training environment, maybe just more locally. If you think about the World Cup, if you think about the Olympics, you think I'm gonna go to them and be like, I'm on my luteal follicular phase today, can you hold that race? They're not gonna do that. So I think, yes, within your system, your sports system, absolutely. But overall, they're not gonna stop the race or the competition for you. And I think it's within your ecosystem finding a way to control that and to understand that for sure.
I love that we get the athlete's perspective as well. Listen, me raising a daughter, me as a woman, I just think that it's about time that we break the last taboos. Most women are experiencing periods. And the fact that everything is still so shrouded in shame and quiet, oh my gosh, give me a sweater, I gotta wrap it around my waist, and you slide each other tampons like you're giving illicit drugs to each other. The shame that is still surrounding something that is 100% natural. I don't get it. And so it would be so refreshing. I'm not an elite athlete, but it would be so refreshing to at least hear somebody say, not as an excuse for performance, but to say, you know what? I deserve better research on my body. I deserve better equipment because I'm a woman and I have breasts. I deserve, better period products. There are great companies that are doing things like period underwear. We should have a line for elite athletes. Like, it's not just about, oh, I need an excuse. It's give us research and products that are gonna make me go from here to here. So break the shame.
That doesn't bug you at all? Like there's something unsavory about the idea that, of course, capitalism will swoop in and try to then fix and find problems and then make money off it. Like, there's something about that doesn't sit quite right for me. And on top of that, like, listen, already women are increasingly talking about this, and everything you're saying is true. But the examples that I've often heard are examples of a woman who, for example, like, went through, horrible period cramps or, like these debilitating situations and still managed to win the race. Like, there were a few examples that I read about that. And then does that not set us up for, like, if you can't handle pain in the same way, let's say you have cysts, let's say you have endometriosis, fibroids, that if you don't perform in the same way, that you're then a lesser athlete? And I can easily see how this could be used against you.
Yes.
Right? You're doing a press conference afterwards, and you decide to say, like, oh yeah, I didn't do very well in that match, and part of it was because I'm on my period. Can you imagine the aftermath in a comment like that? Not just from men watching, but from other women who would absolutely eviscerate another woman for saying that. And so we have to ask ourselves the question, if we're asking to be equals, I'm not saying we erase women's bodies and physiology, but I think we have to reckon with the society the way it is right now. And I just don't think that this is gonna make it safer for women to come forward. I just don't.
Well, and you also lose control of the message to some degree, and when you mention the reporters asking about it versus you sharing it yourself and disclosing it yourself. So much of what you guys said speaks to me from the coaching standpoint in women's soccer, which is the world that I work in. At the Canadian university level, 10 out of 52 head coaches of women's soccer teams are women. So I think your point's a very valid one. And I also think as far as the shame goes, that shame can have very, very real consequences in terms of participation in sports. And Megan Rapinoe, who's a very outspoken former US women's soccer player, did an ad speaking to this very thing. So take a look at this.
Many of you will soon compete on the world stage during your period. But Megan, no one cares if I talk or not about my period. Well, newsflash, 1 in 2 teens skip sports to hide their period. 1 in 2.
So I think that stat is really worth considering. And the other thing is, it is crazy to me.
Ad, though.
Of course, listen, I agree. Sure.
It's an ad for period underwear.
Yeah, of course. Right? No, and I think that's important to highlight, but I don't think one negates the other. Yes, I see the flaws with including capitalism in this conversation and in the menopause conversation and in the motherhood conversation, of course. But I don't think that negates the value of athletes speaking up. And I'll give you one example. Only now are there being studies done for the first time on the connection between ACL injuries in women and their menstrual cycles. In fact, Megan Rapinoe, who you saw there, tore her ACL 3 times, all 3 times she was on her period. And only now, for the first time, is FIFA funding a study to look into this because they have so many female players off the pitch because they sustain this injury when they're on their period. So I think that's why speaking up is important.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Cynthia on this, right? Actually,
Have I changed your mind?
Yes, you have. You always change my mind, honey. You know that. I will say this though. This is why I say it has to be within your ecosystem. This conversation has to really start at that level between you and your coach, you and your physiotherapist, you and your team. Because if you go to a mix zone, if you go to a race and you suddenly say, hey, I'm on my period, I do feel like people will take that and use that against you. You're making an excuse. You are weaker, you're lesser than. And I'll tell you this, your competitor doesn't give a crap. They don't really give a crap that you're on your menstrual cycle. So do we need to start talking about it? Yes, but I think it has to be within a really safe space. I don't think society is ready for women coming out full tilt on this. I don't think we're there yet, sadly.
So the ones who can make noise, make noise.
True.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.